Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm Farhan and today I'm going to continue teaching factories, which is a topic introduced to you guys by Andrew last week. Before I start, I would like you guys to know that being able to do math problems related to this topic is a skill that you need to have before you move on to 12th grade. Here is the agenda for today. We will have a do now. Then I'm gonna teach you guys how to show factories as diagrams. Then we will move on to adding and subtracting factories. And finally, I will show you guys how to calculate resultant by using trig functions. So let's get started. So here is the do now. I would like you to stop the video, take a few minutes, do this equation, and then come back when you are done, so we can go through the answer together. Are you done? So let's see how you did. So the only difference between scalars and factors is that scalars have only magnitude, while factors have both magnitude and direction. For example, if I ask you where is a Warsaw village located, you will say a Warsaw village is 20 kilometers west of Hargeisa. In your answer, you will have a number, which is 20, a unit, which is kilometers, and direction, which is west of Hargeisa. The number and the unit together makes the magnitude, and west of Hargeisa is going to be the direction. So in this case, the position or the location of a Warsaw is going to be a factor because it has both magnitude and direction, and without both of them, the answer will not make sense. Okay? But if I ask you what is your mass, you will say my mass is 65 kg. In this case, you have only a number and a unit, and you don't have direction. The reason is mass is a scalar and scalars don't have direction. So do you understand the difference between the two? Yeah? Good. So here we have some useful words from our last video, and I have them here so you guys can view them as you might need them later in this video. So let's move on showing factors as diagrams. To show a factor as a diagram, we have to use arrows. And by definition, an arrow must have a tail and head. The tail of the arrow indicates the initial point, and where the arrow is pointing to indicates the direction. And how long the arrow is shows the magnitude. And if you remember that from our last video, magnitude basically means the size or how big the factor is. Now let's talk about how we calculate directions. To calculate directions, we use the unit circle. We start from east and then we move to counterclockwise, and then the angle we create here is going to be our direction. The angle for this factor and the angle for this one are basically the same. So you see the arrows are pointing to the same direction. Yeah? But this one is a lot longer, and the reason is because the magnitude of this arrow is a lot bigger than the magnitude of this arrow. Let us look at adding and subtracting factors. In this case, you can have 4 different scenarios. You might have factors facing the same direction, like this one and this one. Or you might have them facing the opposite direction, like this one and this one. Or they can be perpendicular to each other, like this one and this one. Or they can be neither of those. And today what we will do is the first 3. We will not be able to do the last one, as that can be its own video. So when the factors are facing the same direction, what you do is you add the two values, like 5 plus 5, which becomes 10, and the arrow becomes longer. If they are facing the opposite direction, what you do in this case is subtract the values and make the arrow smaller. If they are perpendicular to each other, however, in that case we need to create a triangle, and that's what we're gonna do next, so stay with me. So here we have an example of perpendicular factors, which basically means they are right angle to each other. One of them is facing to east, the other one is facing to north, and if we take this and place it here, then we will have a right angle here. We'll create a right angle here. Okay, let's see how we actually add them together. So what we do is we take the tail of the second factor and we place on the head of the first factor, and then that gives us this. And then to create a triangle, we have to create one more arrow from the start point to the end point. Okay, and that arrow that you created is going to be our magnitude. So now we have our magnitude as a diagram, but how do we calculate the value? To calculate the value, we use this formula, a squared plus b squared equals to c squared, which basically means 4 squared 16 plus 3 squared 9 plus 16 25 square root, which gives us 5 miles. Okay, so now we have our magnitude, which is 5 miles. But we know factors must have magnitude as well as direction. So we don't have a complete answer yet. We have only the magnitude and we have to calculate the angle. So how do we calculate the angle? To calculate the angle, we have to use trig values or trig functions. So to use the trig function, we need to remember SOHCAHTOA. You guys remember SOHCAHTOA from 9th grade? Yes, we're going to use that, and we will be able to use only inverse tan because we have A and O. And whenever you have these two values, the only trig function that you can use is inverse tan. Okay? So we plug in the value, which is 3/4, and then we get 36.9. So now we get our angle or our direction, and we also have our magnitude. We calculate our magnitude using this formula, and we calculate our angle using this formula. So now the question is, how do we put them together to create one answer or to formulate one final answer? And that's shown here. So this is our magnitude, 5 meters at 36.9 degrees due to east. So that's our final answer. Okay? Good. Now, I want you guys to stop the video, try this question, and make sure you get both the magnitude and the direction. And then come back when you are done so you can check your answer. Are you done? Here is the answer. And this is how we calculate it. And this is your final answer. That is it for today, guys. Until next video, Ramadan Mubarak. And please check the Google Classroom as the homework and other worksheets will be there.